بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما أسأل الله تبارك وتعالى أن يجعل نياتنا خالصة لوجه الكريم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. Inshallah ta'ala, we're going to continue. We reached up to page number 11 at A 4.6, and we are continuing to talk about sacred knowledge, al-ilm al-shar'i, that religious knowledge that we all need to learn. I want to remind us of something quickly. I'm building something here that I hope we're all following. Our priority in the 3453 family is learning our religious knowledge in the proper manner. This is the priority for us. There is nothing in this endeavor from the 3453 family more important than learning the religious knowledge properly. And I want us to realize that this is going to take generations. You're not working for yourself. So I must say to myself, this is not about me only. I'm benefiting, I'm learning, but this is for succeeding generations. Listen, as a community, as a people, we haven't done this well. I want to ask you a question. You've heard the definition of a Sunni Muslim. Could y'all give me, as you've learned here, in methodology, what is a Sunni Muslim? Let's just, everyone do it, please. The methodology for the Sunni Muslim, their methodology, their way, can you summarize it for me? Where it's clear, it is definitive, and it excludes what is not of it. Can you explain to me a Sunni? So this is a Sunni, and that definition would also exclude other than the Sunni. So no one who's not a Sunni would be included in it. Ihab, what I mean, al-manhajiyya. What is the methodology of Ahl Sunnati, of the Sunni? What is his methodology? If I want to identify a Sunni and exclude other than the Sunni, how would I do it? Yes, al-manhajiyya. If I wanted to define a Sunni and make sure I excluded that person who wasn't a Sunni. Malika is on the road. Sophia is closer. and Isla is close. Both of y'all are saying the same thing, but I would like it a little more general. The last part. So following a tariqah or following a spiritual path is not necessarily needed to follow the way of tasawwuf in and of itself, right? So you may not necessarily have a tariqah, but you follow the path of tasawwuf. That's a Sunni. So those two definitions are correct, right? I just wanted to generalize the last part because a person may not necessarily have a specific tariqah, but they follow the way of tasawwuf. That's a Sunni. So everyone got that? So can we put those definitions up again? Define the Sunni Muslim and exclude in that definition one who's not. That's the best way to do it. So the Sunni Muslim is one who is either Ash'ari or Maturidi in creed, follows one of the four schools in al-fiqh, Hanafi, Maliki, Shafi, or Hanbali, and follows the way of at-tasawwuf, Sufism. That's a Sunni Muslim. And if he does all that, the rest of the methodologies of Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah will be followed, right? Now, when we look at our communities, and this is our priority in the 3-4-5-3. That's why that's first, 3, right? 4-5-3 is a further explanation of 3, right? Different aspects of 3. We cannot be shy in that. Whenever we come on these platforms, be unapologetic about that. Please, please, please. You hurt us when you're shy about that. When you're flipping and flopping about that, you hurt the whole family. Don't be like that. Even if you have a bunch of sympathy for other things, that's you. And that's fine for you. Please don't extend it to us. This needs to be clear. Really, it's a bigger picture when I say that. Some of us, we have a tender spot for people who deviate from Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah, right? And that in and of itself is a good thing. You should have mercy on them, right? I can see your answers on YouTube. Oh, you mean I should put it up? Okay, I will, inshallah. And that's a good thing. However, you should distinguish between your sympathy for something and truth, right? So in that sense, that's our methodology, and we are firm on it. In terms of engaging with others, that's another story. How do we engage with others that do not have that belief? That's another story. But in terms of our methodology, that should be clear and definitive. Is my point understood by everyone? And this is one of the things that I'm really, 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 really concerned about among us. That we learn, and then when it's time to apply what we learn, we get shaky because of others who may differ from that. You don't have to be mean to tell the truth. Do you understand what I mean? You don't have to be mean to tell the truth. You can tell the truth and still not be mean. But don't hide the matter. Don't do that. Especially in this 3453 family. It is so important. Now, let me follow the question quickly before we continue. Why is this important? Because we're talking generational. And we will notice in our communities, and especially in the Black community, where is this methodology conveyed generationally? Yes, it is true, Sharice, right? That's correct, right? Right? Generationally, and that methodology is well known as a part of that community. In our communities, if we think about it, it's explicit, it's clear, it's understood, it's not all over the place. How many communities we have like that? In our Black community, in the African American community, how many masajid in communities we have like that generation after generation? Explicit, no wavering, explicit. How many we have like that? That's a question. That's something to think about. In the Islamic world, this is the norm. Um, and so we want to reverse that trend. So when we reverse that trend, the only way we're going to do it is by being explicitly clear, right? Right? So therefore, if we're talking about the number of masajid in the country, especially those ran by African Americans alone, if you're talking less than 12 that you can count, we have a problem. When we're talking about hundreds of places, we have a lot of work to do. Now you understand why I say we must be explicit. And that's just from expression. What about the work of actually teaching? Because if the expression is not there, obviously the teaching is not there. If the expression is absent, what about the teaching? The knowledge itself is obviously not there, which is more important than the expression. So therefore, we have to do the work. Is my point clear? So don't ask me to tone that down. You can't tone that down. In fact, it needs to be amplified. You can't turn that down. Tayyip, let us continue. Bismillah.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah. The author, may Allah Ta'ala have mercy on him, said, Shafi'i and colleagues, Allah Ta'ala have mercy on them, say that fathers and mothers must teach their children what will be obligatory for them after puberty. The guardian must teach the child about purification, prayer, fasting, and so forth, and that fornication, sodomy, theft, drinking, lying, slander, and the like are unlawful, and that he acquires more responsibility at puberty and what this entails.
And all this that the parent is going to teach the child is going to be within that methodology of Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah. So they're going to teach them to the beliefs, they're going to teach them al fiqh, and they're going to teach them the halal and the haram, all within that structure. So that child is going to understand the knowledge even before the name of the methodology in their learning process. And that's the obligation on the guardian of the child, the mother, the father, the grandfather, the grandmother, whoever's in charge of that child. They must ensure that they learn the knowledge, right? It's obligatory. If they don't do it, they are sinful. Naam.
It has been said that this education is merely recommended, but in fact it is obligatory, as the plain content of its scriptural basis, per narrator mentioned below, shows. Just as it is mandatory for a guardian to wisely manage his charge's property, this is even more important. The merely recommended is what exceeds this, such as teaching him the Quran, sacred law, etiquette, and teaching him what he needs to earn a living. The evidence for the obligation of teaching a young child is the word of Allah Ta'ala, mighty and majestic. O you who believe, protect yourselves and families from a fire. Quran, Surah 66, Ayah 6.
This verse should be memorized by all of us because it is something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded us in regards to teaching our families. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu ku anfusakum wa ahlikum nara. Right? O Allah, O you who believe, save yourselves and your families from a fire. That's an obligation. May Allah make your family steadfast and grant them patience, Ya Sayyidi. Go ahead, Abdul Wali.
Ali ibn Abi Talib, rahimahullah, Allah Ta'ala be well pleased with him, Mujahid and Qatada say it means, teach them that with which they can save themselves from hell.
Mm-hmm.
A 4.7. As for knowledge of the heart, meaning familiarity with the illnesses of the heart, such as envy, pride, and the like, as discussed in books P, R, and S, Ghazali, rahimahullah, has said that knowledge of their definitions, causes, remedy, and treatment is personally obligatory.
Mm-hmm.
For Sheikh Abdul Wakil Durubi, and this is what Ghazali rahimahullah meant when he said that Sufism, tasawwuf, discussed at W9, is personally obligatory for every Muslim. He did not mean that taking a way, tariqah, and a sheikh are obligatory,
And
but
this is the
rather,
point that I was making, where when we talked about tasawwuf does not always equate to tariqah, right? A tasawwuf is curing oneself from the blameworthy characteristics that the sacred law prohibit us to have. If you can do that without taking a path, then you've done it, and that is tasawwuf, right? Mm.
but rather the elimination of unlawful inner traits, which one could conceivably accomplish through the companionship of a single sincere brother. Others hold that if the morally responsible individual is endowed with a heart free of all these unlawful diseases, it suffices him, and he is not obliged to learn what will cure them. But if not safe, but if not safe from them, he must reflect. And if he can purify his heart from them without instruction, then he must purify it, just as he must shun fornication and the like without learning the evidence proving he must. But if he cannot rid himself of these unlawful traits except through learning the above mentioned knowledge, then he is personally obliged to, and Allah Ta'ala knows best.
So here, and this is the issue of at-tasawwuf. At-tasawwuf, Sufism, and we will be turning our book uh, on the realities of Sufism. At-tasawwuf, as is mentioned there, is really prophetic character and behavior. And the one who is the most excellent in that is the most excellent in tasawwuf. So if you embody the entirety of the prophetic character to the best of your ability, then this itself is tasawwuf. And a tasawwuf can have different ways to go about it. Each and every one of us need to be firm in this knowledge. This knowledge that we discuss is that personal obligatory knowledge on every single one of us who are morally responsible. That is in the 3 of 3453, that we have to have a certain knowledge of the creed, a certain knowledge of al-fiqh, and a certain knowledge of at-tasawwuf. At minimum, that which tells us the proper belief in Islam that is agreed upon by scholarly consensus, the rules of the religion that are obligatory, and the prohibitions that we must avoid, we must know them, and how to have a pure state with Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. Now,
A5.0 communally obligatory knowledge. A5.1 An-Nawawi rahimahullah. The second category, per narrator, of sacred knowledge is what is communally obligatory, Fard al-Kifaya, as
what
defined.
we talked to before in the previous section is about far'ain, that obligatory knowledge. And listen, this obligatory knowledge is something that we're going to have to engage in, the personal obligatory knowledge, till it spreads through our whole community. Each and every one of us need to try our best to acquire this knowledge, not only for ourselves, in a way that we can convey it to others. Right? Why? Because we're in a situation where, unfortunately, most of the people we're going to encounter have never learned the obligatory knowledge of the religion in a sufficient manner. Because it wasn't taught, because there was no methodology. People were just reading books, listening to lectures, attending the Jumu'ah khutbah, like that, watching the internet. No structured learning in a system, a methodology which would facilitate learning the obligatory knowledge. And I don't blame us for that as individuals. The system was not in place for us to get it. Our job is to put that system in place. So let me say this. If we're invited to any place, the black imams, myself, and I would hope my comrades and colleagues, Imam Naim and Imam Fahim and the others, if you are invited to a place, make sure you teach people the personal obligatory knowledge of the religion. Don't just go to a place doing scattered lectures and entertaining people. If you do that, make sure within that the obligatory knowledge is mentioned and identified. And make sure they know that this is a must and this is a priority and this takes precedence over everything else. Do you follow? But some people would invite us and they want us to entertain them. I'm not an entertainer, even if it's Islamic entertainment. No, there are certain things we need to learn. If you don't know these things, this is the priority. We should teach you that. And that doesn't mean we cannot add other things. We can, but we should not forget our priorities, right? It's like trying to teach someone division who don't know how to do addition and subtraction. It will never work. Do you follow my point? It's like trying to teach someone division who doesn't know addition and subtraction. Now, and I agree, it's not solely a black issue, but it is predominant in our communities because those Pakistani masjids, Hanafi masjid, you said it, Pakistani Hanafi masjid. Do you know what they have that we don't have? They have a country that has schools, that has institutions, that has Hanafi scholars. That is available. They're just not seeking it. In our communities, it's not even available. There's a difference. Let me repeat that. Even if in those other communities they're not learning, that's wrong. They should learn. However, they have a systematic structure within their communities that exists. They always have the opportunity to go do it. Right? So they have Darul Ulooms, and all that stuff is available. They have elders and scholars that's available, even back home, even in the States. Not so for us. Not so in our communities. We don't have a black Sunni school or institution with sheikhs that's known that we can go to. We don't. So we have to fix it. We have to concentrate till we do have that. And I'm not talking about a place that is some know about it. No, I'm talking about it's well known among all of us. We have to develop that. We have to. And if we don't have it, we have to put it in our masajid. From place to place to place. That every masjid you go, there is an established curriculum for learning this obligatory knowledge. In every black masjid, it should exist. And we shouldn't stop until it exists. So no matter where you at, wherever you go, the system is in place. Do you follow what I'm saying? That's the difference. So I'm not excluding someone else as saying that's not their condition, because many of us, sometimes when I talk, we'll say they have that problem. I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about us. Right? Even if they have that problem, that doesn't change our condition. We're talking about fixing our condition. Right? You know, as your parents used to say, they say, everybody do it. I don't want you to do what everybody else do. I want you to do the right stuff. Right? Stop worrying about other people. Worry about yourself. And we need to worry about ourselves. Right? That doesn't mean we don't care about nobody else, but we got a crisis going on here. So we have to worry about ourselves. In this case, now maybe once we do it, we can go help the others. Do you understand my point? Maybe once we get it right, we can go help our brothers and sisters in this ummah. But they have the place, they just got to get it right. We don't even have the institutions. Now, go ahead.
Namely, the attainment of those sacred sciences which people cannot do without in practicing their religion, such as memorizing the Quran and Hadith, their ancillary disciplines, methodological principles, sacred law, grammar, lexicology, declension, knowledge of Hadith transmitters, and of scholarly consensus, ijma, as defined at B7, and non consensus.
All right, so now we don't have the institutions set up for the obligatory knowledge of the religion. That's one aspect. Now we're talking about that which is a communal obligation. So once the individual has to have this, the community must establish certain aspects of learning. What is that is? Memorization of the Quran and the Hadith. We always talk about memorizing the Quran. How many of us ever talk about memorizing the Hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam? So as we have set up to memorize the Quran, where's the setup for the reading and memorization of the books of Hadith? Right? That's something to think about. We always talk about memorizing the Quran, but rarely, if ever, do we talk about memorizing the Hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And when I say that, memorizing the Hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam with an unbroken chain of narration. So a lot of us don't even think about, we complete the Quran every year, right? At Ramadan. When do we complete the books of Hadith? You ever thought about that part? We actually did it with our teachers more than once. Go over Al-Bukhari from cover to cover, Muslim, Abu Dawood, Tirmidhi, and Nasai, Ibn Ma'ah, and other books. Why is that not established in our communities? Right? Imam Naim said, pause for our sponsors. Well, on June 23rd in Pittsburgh, we're going to do some Hadith. It's a start. MashaAllah. You should put the link, Imam Naim, so people can register. But no, that's the point. And I'm going to give you something. I'm going to show you something. And this is going to, I say cruel stuff because people do stuff and they don't even pay attention how hurtful it is. Right? Y'all ready for this? It hurts. It do. But they do it and they don't even realize what they're doing because we're so like wiped out of the picture. It's not even a concern. Do you know that Sheikh Samir, I want to share this with you. It hurts. I'm going to be honest. I have a lot of pain. So when you hear me fighting back, it's based on a lot of pain I've experienced and it makes me respond. Right? We were the ones who encouraged Sheikh Samir to read the books of Hadith in America. We were the ones who brought that initiative, African Americans, reading books from cover to cover. That was us. And now you find that others who had more money, more interest, took it over and we lost it. Because in our communities, the masses of people were not ready for it. We didn't have an appreciation for it. And then others who had those systems had an appreciation for it. And now it's not in our communities, except rarely. That's some deep stuff when you think about it. And no one ever thought to say, guess what? They was the ones started. Let's go and join them with our people. They didn't do that. They kept it to themselves. That's a hurtful thing. But it's real, like it or not. And sometimes people don't even think about it. That's why I'm saying for us, we have to concentrate on ourselves, or that will keep happening. It will keep happening until we deliberately start changing the situation. I say that. It hurts when I think about it. Right? And it is part of the reason why I push my people. Why I'm so deliberate about it. Because you won't have anything if you don't become aware. Or we give it away, right? So if we're talking about that, now that's among the communal. So that means it must exist. It's a communal obligation. We have to preserve it. Right? And what about the other things? Usul al-fiqh, fiqh, grammar, nahwa, sarf, Arabic language, knowing about narrators and the sciences of hadith and consensus and difference of opinion. All those things among the Islamic sciences must be taught in our communities. And these are by books and by chains of narration as well. Right? We have to establish that stuff in our community. And if we can't do it, we have to lay the foundations so that the future generations are able to do it. We have a role. This is important stuff. It's not just something we're talking about that doesn't mean anything. No, we have to do it. Yes, we have books of sale. We'll deal with that in the masjid. I'll show you, inshallah. So there's a lot of work. But I'm telling you, for us, we can't be lazy in this regard. But no, here's what I say. We have to take responsibility, right? Let me move it quickly, scattered thought real quick. The reason why the businesses in our communities are owned by others is our fault. And we cannot say that, oh, well, it wasn't meant for us to have businesses. No, you didn't establish businesses and you allow other people to establish business and take the money out your community. That's your fault. You cannot say, oh, we weren't meant to have businesses in our community. No, you didn't do the work. And someone came and stripped that ability from you in your communities. And just as they did it, you could reverse it, you know. So just like we lose things, we can reverse it and regain it. You can do it. You can do it to where your communities become the center of these things. You can do it. It's not impossible. It's easily achievable when you put your mind to it. You are a mighty people. You have great potential. We have great potential, but we're so easily, and we have to fix this, inclined not to work. Human beings get nothing except what they strive for. That's the sunnah of Allah and His creation. You have to put in the work. But if you don't put in the work, you can't then say, transfer that's Allah wielded. No, you didn't do any work. And that's a result of you not doing any work. But if you work, and you work diligently, you'll find that it's opposite of what you think. Do you understand my point? If we didn't come here every morning, it won't exist. We can't say we don't get up, we don't get online, we don't do the things, we don't read the books, we don't study, the reader doesn't read, I don't explain, you don't listen. Then we say, well, it wasn't meant for us to learn. No, you didn't do anything. You have to do the work, right? I can't lay in my bed and say it wasn't meant to happen. Yeah, obviously, because you're sleeping. No, we have to get up and do the job. And that's across the board with everything we're talking about. Now, go ahead.
A 5.2. As for learning which is not sacred knowledge, but is required to sustain worldly existence, such as medicine and mathematics, it too is a communal obligation.
Now, here's another aspect. We have a lot of work to do. After we talk about sacred knowledge, al-ilm al-shar'i, then we got to talk about the worldly knowledge too. And the author just give it like medicine, like mathematics, like agriculture, like engineering, like all the worldly sciences that we need to live. It's a communal obligation that they exist too. So now we have to also have among our children those who know how to handle the worldly sciences and are excellent and proficient in them so we can build communities and societies. We have a lot of work to do. So when we're saying sacred knowledge, are we ignoring other things? No, that's a communal obligation. So we got to push some people to be excellent in that, right? And then they have to have their role in the community. But everyone has to have a certain amount of the sacred knowledge, and some of us need more. That's how you build communities and societies. It's a lot of work. I want you to take a visit if you ever get a chance. And I say this because it's something that I really admire. I want you to go and visit this community. Just visit. I want you to, and I'll take a trip with you if you want to go. And maybe you'll go with me so you can get really to see what happened there. This is Al Maqasid. It's in Allentown, Pennsylvania. Not Allentown, but next to Allentown, Pennsylvania. I watched this community grow, I would say over a 10-year period, roughly. Roughly, right? I remember this community when we were in a building, one rented building, a few brothers doing what we could do. And I watched over a 10-year period it grow into a campus, full-time seminary, programs all around the place. I watched it. I watched it firsthand. And I watched how it was done, who it was done with. I watched the whole thing. And I'm telling you, they had far less in numbers than we have right on this platform. Far less in numbers than we have on this platform. Right? And I say to us, it can be a model for us to know our potential. Oh, I forgot. Right? It can be a model for us to know our potential. And I don't want us to do what we normally do. We go see a model and we forget ourselves and just go do that and leave us still in the same condition. I don't want us to do that. We should learn from others and see where we're falling short and then fill in that. Do you follow what I mean? We should learn and then see our potential. When you go visit something, you're visiting to learn, not to leave your struggle. We do that. You still got your issue you got to solve. You follow my point? But it's a good model because we were directly there and we watched it. It's a great model. And it's still going to grow. So as you can see it growing and growing and growing, you know what you can do. You know what things you need in place to achieve. And all of these things that we're talking about right here, I watched them put that into practice. What we just learned, can you do A6 real quick?
A6.0, Recommended Knowledge. Imam Nawawi. The third category is the supererogatory, as defined at C4.2, such as in-depth research into the basis of evidences and elaboration beyond the amount required by the communal obligation, or such as an ordinary Muslim learning the details of non-obligatory acts of worship for the purpose of performing them, though not the work of scholars in distinguishing the obligatory from the non-obligatory, which is a communal obligation in respect to them, and Allah Ta'ala knows best.
So all of these things, I watched them put in practice. I was there. I helped organize and write out that mission. I watched it and I watched them execute it. I watched all of it. Everything you see there is right here. In these pages we covered. Everything you're going to see there is 3453. In action. In action. And I think it's something we need to see because it exists just as we explain it. Now we need to establish that in our communities as well. Is it going to look exactly the same? No, because we're not exactly the same. It's going to be different in its appearance. But the meaning is the meaning of Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah. And it is something. It is the meaning if we travel to Al-Azhar in Egypt, we're going to see the same thing. It's the same structure. If we study travel to the different Darul Ulooms and in the subcontinent, it's the same thing. If we travel to Morocco and see the Islamic universities of Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah, or in West Africa where they are really Ahl Sunnah, it's the same thing. We have to put it in the Black community. The same thing. And I'm concerned about that. And I hope you are too. I guess you wouldn't be here if you weren't. We have a lot of work to do. A lot. Don't underestimate the amount of work we have to do. If you underestimate it, you won't do it. You will be satisfied with mediocrity. And we can't be satisfied with that. It's killing us. And Allah knows best. I'll stop there if there is any questions. I wanted to deal with something, which is a good question Brother Hamza Abdul Mujahid mentioned. We are really thorough. I don't know if you said tough, thorough. I don't know the word. The mental health of our communities need to be addressed before anything. I don't believe that. I agree that the mental health needs to be addressed, right? I agree. But we need to learn our religion first, while simultaneously working on our mental health through our religion as well. Because what we're seeing develop in our community is mental health experts who learn from white folks trying to reinvent our religious understanding or reinvent, recast, restructure our Islamic understanding. So mental health becomes the priority over the deen, and that's dangerous. And I watched it for years. So-called mental health experts who learn from white folk becoming the dominant voice in Islam, which is insane. And they didn't learn the religion at all. Be careful with that. That's dangerous. So I agree, they have their place in the worldly sciences. They don't take priority over the religious sciences. Do you understand what I mean? Be careful. Shaitan is slick. You got all these people having mental health experts, and they're now, we're going to tell you how to teach the deen. You don't know the deen to teach it. Because you went to some Western university and learned some psychology from white folks, you're going to come in the black community and tell us how to learn our Islam and be? Man, would you stop it? I'm being honest. I know that might be hurting to some of our mental health experts, but you don't take priority over the religion. I don't care what Mr. Charlie taught you. And you would find them explaining the religion through what they learned in the Western universities. A'udhu billah. Have you lost your mind? No, I seen it. I'm a professional. You don't know nothing about Islam. What do you mean you're a professional? You don't even know Fard Ain. You're talking about you're a professional. You're a professional in psychology. Stay in your lane. That's what you need to teach, not the deen. You didn't learn the deen. You need to sit down and learn. And yeah, they may get offended. Get offended. You need to sit down. I'm offended that you trying to teach something you don't know. That's offensive. Because if someone goes in your psychology bag, you're going to complain. I'm a doctor. I'm a PhD. Okay, well, you're not even a layman in the deen. Sit down and learn. But that doesn't mean you don't have a place in your field. That's your field. And we're going to respect your field. Likewise, you should respect where you don't know. I'm sorry to go so hard in this issue, but I see this trend, and it's an ugly trend. And sometimes for money, for popularity, for acceptance, some of our learned people accept that stuff. I'm not one of them. Nor do I claim to be learned. Maybe that's why I don't accept. But no, that's an ugly thing I see happening. I see it. And it happens in masjids, where the wealthy are controlling the masjid. They didn't learn any deen. They just got money. I'm on the board, and I'm a doctor, and I have a money, and you will listen. And here I'm going to give you a salary, imam, and you're going to do what we tell you, even though what we're telling you is haram. Even though we don't know nothing about the religion, but we pay. You want job? You want job? You want job? That's me being sarcastic. No, that's the spirit. We got to fix that stuff. Y'all got my point? We need some courage. Seriously. We need courage. But that doesn't mean that the imam should act like he's a psychologist. He's not. He's not a professional in that. And he needs to stay in his lane. And so therefore, we go get the professionals. But he's for religious instruction and make sure the sacred law is being followed. So there is no crossing of boundaries. And likewise, Sheikh Salman used to say to me all the time, someone would come and say, yo, I think I'm dealing with a jinn. Sheikh said, did he see a doctor? Before, everything ain't the jinn. Something is you got mental health issues and you need a doctor. Send him to the doctor. Now, once he sees the doctor and the doctor says, no, this is, I'm confused, and then maybe we can look at other things too. And that is how science is worldly and Islamic sciences. It's not contradictory. Everything has its place, right? Everything has its place. Is the point clear? Any questions? All clear? Any questions about what I mentioned? If you have questions, please feel free. And believe me, we're only beginning. We're only beginning. We didn't even start really what we need to do. To do all that, that's a lifetime journey. And let me tell you why I have a strong stance with Wahhabi Salafi methodology. Is because if we keep following that, the doors of this structure that we're going to have will never exist. It is one of the biggest obstacles to a sound Islamic education. It opens the door for so many things that will tear down our Islamic structure as it tore down our Islamic rulership in the world. The enemies of Islam use that methodology to destroy the Islamic empire, and we haven't seen it since when you study history. And then made it normalized and around, especially in the West, and that's what we get. So it's suitable for everyone to come in from wherever because there's no religious structure that they need. I just follow Quran and Sunnah and I make it up. It's been destroying our religion. One of my teachers, he said, not following an Islamic school of thought, a madhab, is the most dangerous innovation threatening the sacred law. And that's what they've been calling for. the abandonment of our religious tradition, our methodology of learning, to replace it with a free for all. To it's no longer even respectable. But it must be among us who maintain our tradition. Period. Someone got to maintain our tradition. And we need to do that. And listen, even if you don't feel qualified, you have to work hard to establish it so that in the future, there will be those who are qualified. But you have to start the initiative. But you know what really this is? It's going to take a lot of learning. One of our contemporary scholars, he said something so beautiful. Let me see if I can find this real quick. It's so beautiful. He said something. Give me 1 second. I want to share this with you. Let me see if I can find the statement. It was so beautiful. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. Anyway, I'll try to recreate it and reword it in my mind. I would have liked to read it specifically what he said, but I can't find it. The meaning, what he said, was that some of us don't know, some people don't know, and they don't want to know because of the work that needs to be put in to know. That's the meaning of what he said. Some people don't know and don't want to know because of the work that is necessary to put in to know. Did y'all follow that? Some people don't know and don't want to know because of the work that is necessary to put in order to know. That was so strong. I was like, whoa. We can't be like that. Some people don't know and don't want to know because of the work that is necessary to put in order to know. That was strong to me. We can't be like that. We cannot be like that. We work. Yeah, that's it. Let's not be like that. Some people don't know and don't want to know because of the work that is necessary to put in order to know. Yeah, don't be like that. Work to our capacity, but work. Right? We have to put in the work. And may Allah make it easy for us. Inshallah, tonight is the Black Imams Roundtable with the beloved Imams, Imam Genius, Naeem Abdullah, and Imam Fahim Lee, Imam of the Boombap. And we're still working on our topic that we wanted to talk about tonight. Because there are many things we should talk about, but we have to select some. And we don't plan much. We're very spontaneous, unless there's something happening. So, we usually speak from the heart and what comes to us. Sometimes it comes to us right before the program. Does that drive y'all crazy? These guys are not formal at all. They just do whatever they want. We should name the show the Do It Whatever You Want Imams. MashaAllah. But long as it's beneficial, inshallah. So we'll see you tonight at 6 o'clock for the Black Imams Roundtable with the Do Whatever You Want Imams. Barakallahu bikum wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.